The vast darkness of space suddenly erupted with the glow of 10,000 warships as the Draconian Armada emerged from hyperspace near Earth's solar system. Admiral Zithkar stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching the small blue planet rotate peacefully below. His reptilian eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he studied the tactical displays showing Earth's primitive defenses. "Status report," Zithkar commanded in his deep, rumbling voice. His scaled armor caught the light from the ship's displays as he moved across the bridge. Commander Velthor approached, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. "Admiral, our initial scans confirm what our scouts reported. This civilization barely has space travel capabilities. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and crude energy systems. They pose no threat to even our smallest vessels." The Admiral's forked tongue flicked out briefly, tasting the recycled air of the bridge. "Excellent.
How many inhabited worlds
Does this make for our empire?" 47 conquered systems, sir. Earth will be 48. Velthar's scaled fingers moved across the holographic interface, bringing up detailed scans of Earth's major cities. The population centers are clearly marked, no underground facilities detected, orbital defenses worth mentioning. Meanwhile, deep beneath the bustling streets of Seoul, Lieutenant Colonel Kim Taeho felt the familiar vibration through the reinforced concrete as the emergency systems activated. The underground command center came alive with the soft hum of computers and the quiet voices of trained personnel taking their positions. "All stations, report status," Kim Taeho spoke into his headset. His calm voice betrayed none of the tension he felt as he watched the satellite feeds disappear one by one from the main display screen. Captain Park Min-soo looked up from his console, his fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. "Sir, we have confirmation from North American Defense Grid. European Underground Network is online. Asian Pacific Command is ready. Our continental systems are responding." Kim Taeho nodded slowly. These were systems that had been waiting in silence for decades, maintained by a small group of people who knew the truth about Earth's real capabilities. "Good. Begin Phase 1, evacuation protocols. All citizens to designated safe zones immediately. Cross the city above." Air raid sirens began wailing as people moved quickly but calmly to subway stations and underground shelters. This was not panic but practiced efficiency. Every major city on Earth had been preparing for this moment. Though most citizens believed it was just another drill, in a research facility hidden beneath the mountains outside Seoul, Dr. Lee Soyoung watched, her screens with growing concern. The alien fleet was massive, but their attack patterns revealed something important about their thinking. "They are scanning only surface structures," she reported to her team. "No deep ground penetration scans, no attempts to locate underground installations. They think we are exactly what we appear to be on the surface." Her assistant, a young technician named Hyan Woo, looked confused. "But doctor, is that not good for us? If they cannot find our real defenses?" "It means they have done this before," Dr. Lee replied grimly, "many times. They expect us to behave like every other species they have conquered. They think we will panic, fight chaotically, and surrender when we see their superior technology." Above them, the first wave of draconian ships entered Earth's atmosphere. The massive vessels, each one larger than a city block, descended through the clouds with their weapon systems charging. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Admiral Zithkar watched the deployment with satisfaction. "Begin orbital bombardment. Target their major population centers first. Once they see the futility of resistance, they will surrender quickly." The first energy beams lanced down from the sky, striking buildings and infrastructure with devastating precision. But as the dust settled and the draconian sensors analyzed the damage, something unexpected became clear. Admiral Velthar reported with confusion in his voice. "The casualty reports are much lower than predicted. The buildings we targeted appear to have been largely evacuated." "Impossible," Zithkar growled. "We gave them no warning. How could they have evacuated so quickly?" Back in his command bunker, Kim Taeho watched the bombardment through hidden cameras placed throughout the city. The aliens were following their expected pattern, but they had no idea that every major target had been evacuated hours before their arrival, sir. Captain Park Min-soo reported. All Phase 1 evacuations are complete. Minimal casualties reported from all sectors. The population is secure in hardened shelters. Kim Tae-ho allowed himself a small smile. Good. Now we wait. Let them think they are winning. Let them commit more ships to the surface bombardment. The Draconian fleet continued its assault, but Admiral Zithkar was growing increasingly frustrated. His weapons were hitting their targets, but the expected collapse of human resistance was not occurring.
Ow.
Instead, his sensors were picking up strange energy signatures from below ground. Commander, are you certain there are no underground installations? He demanded. Velthor checked his instruments again. Our scans show solid rock and earth below the surface structures, Admiral. Perhaps these humans are simply better at hiding than most species. What the Draconian sensors could not detect were the carefully shielded facilities that had been built over decades of preparation. Miles of tunnels connected underground cities, manufacturing plants, and military installations. The humans had learned to hide their true capabilities behind a facade of primitive technology. Dr. Lee So-young continued monitoring the alien fleet's movements, taking detailed notes on their tactics, weapon systems, and communication patterns. Every piece of information would be valuable in the coming battle. Their ships move in standard formation patterns, she observed. Three-dimensional grid deployment with command vessels in the center. They are following military doctrine that assumes their enemy will fight conventionally. As the first day of bombardment continued, the Draconians began to notice other disturbing signs. Their communication intercepts revealed that human military units were not in disarray. Instead, they were following coordinated plans and moving with purpose through underground networks. Admiral Zithkar stood before his tactical display, studying the patterns of human movement below the surface. Something is wrong here, Commander. This species is not reacting as expected. Perhaps they are simply more organized than most primitives, Velthar suggested. But even he was beginning to feel uneasy about the lack of panic among the human population. The truth was becoming clear to those who were paying attention. Earth was not the helpless world it appeared to be. Behind the facade of primitive technology and simple defenses lay a civilization that had been preparing for exactly this scenario for longer than the Draconians could imagine. The morning of the fourth day brought disturbing news to Admiral Zithkar's command center. Lieutenant Crystal approached the Admiral's throne with visible nervousness, his scaled hands trembling slightly as he held the datapad. Admiral, we have a serious problem, Crystal began, his voice barely above a whisper. 12 of our reconnaissance squadrons have gone completely silent over the Korean peninsula. No distress signals, no final transmissions. They simply disappeared. Yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. Red dots marked the last known positions of the missing ships, scattered across what should have been an easy surveillance mission. How is this possible? Those squadrons were equipped with our most advanced stealth technology. Sir, there is more, Crystal continued reluctantly. 3 more squadrons over the Japanese islands have also stopped responding, and our patrol units near the Chinese coast are reporting strange energy signatures before losing contact. Far below the surface, Colonel Kim Tae-ho sat in his mobile command center, surrounded by screens showing real-time data from across the planet. The underground facility moved through a network of tunnels that connected to similar bases worldwide, making it nearly impossible for the aliens to track their operations. All units, this is Command Alpha, Kim Tae-ho spoke into his headset. Phase 2 is now active. Remember your training protocols. The enemy expects us to behave like every other species they have conquered. We will not give them that advantage. The response came from dozens of hidden bases across Asia. Command Alpha, this is Seoul Base. All fighters ready for deployment. Command Alpha, this is Busan Underground. Strike teams in position. Command Alpha, this is Tokyo Deep. Electronic warfare systems online. Kim Tae-ho nodded with satisfaction. These were not panicked civilians or regular military units. These were specialists who had trained their entire careers for this exact moment. Learning to fight an enemy with superior technology but predictable tactics. Captain, Yu checked his instruments one final time before starting his engines. His fighter sat in an underground hangar that had been carved out of solid rock decades ago. To alien sensors, it would appear to be just another cave system, but it housed some of the most advanced aircraft on Earth. Tower, this is Ghost Leader. Requesting permission to launch, Yinwu said into his radio. Ghost Leader, you are cleared for combat operations. Good hunting. The hangar doors opened, revealing what appeared to be a simple mountainside. But as Yinwu's fighter emerged, sophisticated camouflage systems activated, making his aircraft nearly invisible to draconian sensors. To them, it would look like an old, primitive jet fighter. 3 draconian interceptors detected the human aircraft and moved to destroy it. They destroyed hundreds of similar fighters over the past few days, and this one appeared no different. The alien pilots activated their targeting systems, confident in their superior technology. But as they closed in, something unexpected happened. The human fighter suddenly transformed, its outer shell shifting to reveal advanced armor plating and weapon systems that matched their own technology. Energy cannons emerged from hidden compartments, and the aircraft's speed increased dramatically. What is this?
Ow.
One of the draconian pilots transmitted in shock. Our intelligence said these humans had primitive aircraft. Before they could react, the human fighter had destroyed 2 of their ships with precision strikes. The 3rd pilot tried to escape, but found himself outmaneuvered by flying techniques that defied everything he knew about. Aerial Combat Commander Velthor watched his tactical display in growing alarm as more red dots disappeared from the screen. Admiral, we are losing ships at an unprecedented rate. Humans are using tactics we have never encountered before. Impossible, Zithkar hissed. We have conquered dozens of species. We know every form of resistance warfare. Sir, they are not fighting like the others, Velthor insisted. They seem to know our weaknesses before we reveal them. They strike at critical systems we did not know were vulnerable. In the underground tunnels beneath Busan, Sergeant Choi Hai-jin led her squad through passages that had been prepared for decades. Each tunnel was equipped with hidden weapon caches, communication systems, and supplies that could sustain a long guerrilla campaign. Listen carefully, she whispered to her team. The aliens above us are used to fighting enemies who panic when they see superior technology. We are not going to panic. We are going to use their overconfidence against them. Her squad members nodded. They had trained for this scenario since joining the Special Forces, studying alien psychology and learning to exploit the weaknesses of technologically superior enemies. Target coordinates received, reported Private Kim Dong-soo. 3. Enemy ground units establishing a forward base 2 kilometers northwest. Perfect. Choi Ha-jin smiled grimly. They think they can set up bases wherever they want, because no primitive species would dare attack them directly. Let's show them how wrong they are. The squad moved through the tunnels with practiced silence, emerging at carefully prepared exit points that surrounded the alien base. The draconian soldiers were setting up their equipment in standard formation, following procedures that had worked on 47 other worlds. But Earth was different. As the aliens worked, small charges detonated around their perimeter, not to cause damage, but to confuse their sensors. In the chaos that followed, human fighters appeared from multiple directions. Using weapons specifically designed to penetrate draconian armor, the battle was brief but decisive. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know exactly how they would react to each situation. Every move they made was anticipated, every weakness exploited with surgical precision. Admiral Zithkar studied the battle reports with growing concern. These humans are learning our tactics faster than should be possible for a primitive species. How are they adapting so quickly? Sir, intelligence suggests they may have encountered our scouts before, Velthar replied. Perhaps they have been, studying us longer than we realized? That would explain their preparedness, Zithkar mused. But it does not explain their technology. Our sensors clearly showed primitive weapons and defenses. What the Admiral did not know was that Earth's apparent primitiveness was carefully maintained deception. The old fighter jets, simple radar systems, chemical weapons were all deliberate misdirection, designed to make potential enemies underestimate human capabilities, Dr. Lee Soyoung watched the battle unfold from her hidden facility, taking detailed notes on draconian reactions and weaknesses. They are beginning to realize something is wrong, she reported to her team. But they still do not understand the true nature of our preparations. As the fourth day ended, the Draconian Armada had lost more ships than in any previous conquest. The humans were not just surviving the bombardment. They were fighting back with increasing effectiveness, turning the invasion into a real war, rather than the simple conquest the aliens had expected. The second week of the invasion brought chaos to the Draconian command structure. Admiral Zithkar stood before his tactical display, watching red warning lights flash across dozens of ship status indicators. His massive scaled fist crashed down on the armrest of his command throne, creating a loud clang that echoed through the bridge. "How many more ships have we lost?" he demanded, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. Lieutenant Crickstal approached nervously, clutching a datapad with trembling claws. "Admiral, we have lost 237 vessels in the past week. That is more than we lost in our last 5 conquests combined." Commander Velthor stepped forward, his expression grim. "Sir, there is something else. The humans have somehow penetrated our communication systems. They are broadcasting messages directly to our troops on all frequencies." "What kind of messages?" Zithkar growled. "Psychological warfare, sir. They are telling our soldiers that this war is wrong, that we are the invaders, that our empire has committed terrible crimes. Some of our younger troops are beginning to question their orders." Deep beneath the Korean mountains, Dr. Lee Soyoung worked tirelessly in her underground laboratory. Banks of computers hummed around her as she and her team analyzed, captured draconian technology. The lab was filled with alien devices in various stages of disassembly. Their strange components spread across metal tables under bright lights. The encryption system is complex, but not impossible to break, she explained to Major Kung Du-hyen, who had arrived to check on their progress. "These aliens are advanced, but they think in patterns we can understand. Their logic is actually quite predictable." Major Kong Du-hyeon studied the alien communication device on the table. "How long until we can use their own systems against them?" "We're already doing it," Dr. Lee replied with a tired smile. "Every message they send, every order they give, we can intercept and modify. We are feeding false information to their commanders and spreading confusion throughout their ranks." Her assistant, a young technician named Park Jimin, looked up from her computer screen.
Actor.
"We have successfully hacked into their fleet coordination system. We can now track every ship movement in real time. Above ground, the battle had spread across multiple continents. Captain Park Min-zoo coordinated the global resistance from his mobile command center, which moved through underground tunnels that connected major cities worldwide. His screen showed simultaneous operations in Asia, Europe, North America, and Africa. Strike Team Alpha, this is command. Enemy formation Delta 7 is approaching your position from the northwest. They have 12 heavy cruisers and 36 fighters. Command, this is Alpha Leader. We see them, initiating attack pattern Omega. Strike Team Beta, enemy reinforcements are moving to support their ground base in Sector 9. Hit them while they are in transition. Copy that, Command. Beta Team moving to intercept." The human attacks were carefully coordinated to exploit specific weaknesses in draconian formations. Each strike was timed to maximum effect, forcing the aliens to respond in predictable ways that made them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. In a draconian detention facility aboard the flagship, Private Nam Soo-bin sat quietly in his cell. He had been captured 3 days earlier during a failed assault on an enemy landing site. His draconian guards expected him to be frightened and desperate, but instead he appeared calm and thoughtful. "This war does not have to continue," he said in carefully practiced alien language to the guard standing outside his cell. "Your people and mine could be friends instead of enemies." The guard, a young draconian soldier named Zektar, looked at him with suspicion. "You are a prisoner. Why do you speak of friendship?" "Because I know your people are not evil, Nam," Soo-bin replied. "You have families just like we do. You want to go home safely? Just like we do. The ones who started this war are the ones who will never fight in it themselves." Zektar remained silent, but Nam Soo-bin could see uncertainty in his reptilian eyes. Over the following days, he continued these conversations, slowly planting doubts about the righteousness of the invasion. Commander? The Kumar observed the human prisoners with growing confusion. These creatures are unlike any species we have encountered, he reported to Commander Velthor. They fight with the desperation of beings who have nothing to lose, but their coordination suggests they believe they have everything to gain. What do you mean? Velthor asked. Watch their battle patterns, Dekmer explained, pointing to the tactical display. They sacrifice individual units without hesitation when necessary, but they never waste lives pointlessly. They fight like they know exactly what they are fighting for. The draconian psychological profiles had predicted that humans would either surrender quickly when faced with superior technology, or fight chaotically in individual groups. But the reality was completely different. The humans fought with unity and purpose that defied all previous experience. Admiral Zithkar had grown. Increasingly desperate as the casualties mounted. Send a message to High Command, he ordered. Request immediate reinforcements. We need at least 5,000 additional ships to complete this conquest. But when the communications officer attempted to send the message, nothing happened. Sir, our long-range communications are being jammed. I cannot reach High Command. Impossible, Zithkar roared. Our communication systems are more advanced than anything these primitives possess. What the Admiral did not know was that Dr. Lee, Sol Young's team, had not only broken their encryption, but had also developed jamming systems specifically designed to block draconian communications. The alien fleet was now completely isolated from the rest of their empire in underground facilities across the globe. Human technicians worked around the clock to maintain the electronic warfare systems. They had turned the aliens' own advanced technology against them, creating a communications blackout that prevented any calls for help. All jamming stations report full operational status, reported the chief technician to Dr. Lee. The enemy fleet is completely cut off from outside contact. Excellent, Dr. Lee replied.
Now they will begin to feel the psychological pressure of isolation.
They expected a quick victory, but instead they find themselves trapped in a war. They cannot win or escape. As the second week ended, the Draconian Armada found itself in an impossible situation. They were losing ships faster than they could replace them. Their communications were blocked, and their enemies seemed to know their every move before they made it. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were beginning to realize that Earth was not just another primitive world to conquer. 1 month after the first alien ships appeared in Earth's skies, Colonel Kim Tae-ho walked through corridors that few humans had ever seen. The underground facility stretched endlessly beneath the Korean mountains, its walls lined with technology that glowed with soft blue light. Massive screens displayed real-time information from around the globe, while technicians worked at stations that seemed to blend human and alien design. Gentlemen, ladies, Kim Tae-ho addressed the group of military commanders who had gathered in the central briefing room. The time has come to reveal the truth about our preparations. The assembled officers looked around in amazement at the advanced equipment surrounding them. General Park Sung-ho from the American operations spoke first. Colonel, this technology, it appears to be decades ahead of anything we showed the world. Kim Tae-ho nodded gravely. For 70 years, since the first documented UFO encounter in 1947, we have been collecting, studying, and reverse engineering alien technology. Every strange sighting, every unexplained incident, every piece of crashed spacecraft, it all came to facilities like this one. He gestured to a wall display showing historical photographs. The Roswell incident, the Phoenix Lights, the Belgian Triangle, these were not just random visits. They were reconnaissance missions by various alien species, including the Draconians. They were studying us, preparing for eventual conquest. Commander Sarah Chen from the European sector looked stunned. Are you saying we knew this invasion was coming? We knew someone would come eventually, Kim Tae-ho replied. We did not know when or who, but we prepared for the most likely scenario. The Draconians have conquered 47 other worlds using the same tactics. We studied their methods, their psychology, their weaknesses. Dr. Lee So-young stepped forward carrying a device that hummed with strange energy. While they were analyzing us, we were analyzing them. Every alien artifact we recovered contained information about their technology, their biology, their thought patterns. She activated the device, causing screens throughout the room to display complex brain wave patterns. This is a draconian neural map. We learned how their minds work, how they process information, how they react to different stimuli. We can now influence their thoughts and emotions directly. High above the facility, Captain Yuginwu streaked through the sky in his fighter, engaging a formation of 6 draconian cruisers. His aircraft no longer looked like the primitive jet it had appeared to be weeks earlier. Now it displayed its true capabilities: energy shields that deflected alien weapons, plasma cannons that could punch through draconian armor, and speed that matched their fastest interceptors. Ghost Leader to all units, he transmitted. Enemy formation is breaking up. They're confused by our real firepower. The draconian pilots found themselves facing weapons they had never seen before. Energy beams lanced out from the human fighter, striking with precision that seemed impossible for a primitive species. One by one, their ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. How is this possible? Transmitted one surviving draconian pilot. Intelligence said these humans had chemical rockets and metal bullets. Intelligence was wrong, replied another pilot, before his ship was destroyed by a perfectly aimed shot. Aboard the draconian flagship, Admiral Zithkar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. Ship after ship was disappearing from his fleet, destroyed by weapons that matched or exceeded their own technology. The red dots representing his forces were vanishing faster than he could count them. "Commander Velthar," he roared, "explain to me how a primitive species suddenly possesses technology equal to our own." Velthar approached nervously, his scaled hands shaking as he held his datapad. "Sir, our intelligence reports are being revised. It appears the humans have been concealing their true capabilities from the beginning." Concealing? Zithkar's voice rose to a dangerous pitch. "You mean they deliberately made themselves appear primitive?" "Sir, our analysts believe they have been preparing for this invasion for decades. Every piece of technology we are now facing appears to be specifically designed to counter our weapons and tactics." In her underground laboratory, Notorli Soyoung made final adjustments to a massive array of equipment that filled an entire chamber. The device resembled a combination of human engineering and alien technology, with crystalline components that pulsed with energy. "Neural disruption array is ready," she announced to Major Kung Du-hien. "This will send specific frequencies through their communication networks targeting the fear centers of draconian brains." "Will it harm them permanently?" the Major asked. "No, but it will make them experience terror unlike anything they have felt before. Their own minds will work against them, making them see threats where none exist. It's causing panic and confusion throughout their ranks." Dr. Lee activated the device, and across the globe, similar arrays came online. The draconian fleet suddenly found their communications filled with strange signals that seemed to whisper directly into their minds. Aboard enemy ships, draconian soldiers began experiencing overwhelming fear. Their own thoughts turned against them, making them see shadows moving in empty corridors, hear footsteps where no one walked, feel watched by unseen eyes. "Admiral," Commander Velthor's voice cracked with terror, "the crew is reporting things that cannot be there. Hallucinations, sir. The humans are doing something to our minds." Admiral Zithkar felt the fear creeping into his own consciousness. For the first time in centuries of conquest, he experienced genuine terror. This was not the clean, technological superiority his species was accustomed to. This was psychological warfare on a level they had never encountered. "Sir," Lieutenant Crixtel reported, his voice barely a whisper, "long-range sensors are detecting something disturbing. The humans appear to have facilities on every continent, all connected by underground networks. This is not a primitive civilization at all." The truth was becoming undeniable. The Draconians had not invaded a helpless world. They had walked into a carefully prepared trap, designed by a species that had been studying them for decades. Every move they made had been anticipated, every weakness identified and exploited. "How did our scouts miss this?" Zithkar demanded. "I believe they saw exactly what the humans wanted them to see," Velthar replied. "The primitive cities, The simple weapons, the basic technology, it was all a deception. While we were looking at the surface, they were building an advanced civilization underground. As the first month of the invasion ended, the Draconian Armada faced a terrible realization. They were not fighting primitives. They were fighting a species that had turned deception into an art form, that had spent 7 decades preparing for this exact moment, and that knew their enemies better than they knew themselves. The hunters had become the hunted, and the trap was closing around them. The 6th week of the invasion brought desperation to the Draconian command. Admiral Zithkar stood before his tactical display, watching as his once mighty fleet had been reduced to fewer than 3,000 ships. The humans had revealed technology that matched their own weapons that could penetrate their shields, and tactics that seemed to predict every move his forces made. All remaining vessels prepare for final assault, he commanded through the communication system. We will concentrate our entire fleet and strike at their primary population centers simultaneously. If we cannot conquer them, we will destroy them completely. Commander Velthar approached his leader with obvious reluctance. Admiral, perhaps we should consider retreat. We could return to the Empire and request a full invasion force. No. Zithkar's voice echoed through the bridge.
We will not be the first Draconian fleet to flee from primitives.
We end this today, one way or another. But as the remaining ships began to form up for the final attack, something extraordinary began to happen. The cruiser Kethmer, positioned at the edge of the formation, simply vanished. One moment it was there, a massive warship filled with 5,000 Draconian warriors, and the next moment there was only empty space. Admiral Commander Velthor's voice trembled as he stared at his instruments. The Kethmer has disappeared. Not destroyed, not damaged. It has simply ceased to exist. What do you mean, ceased to exist? Zithkar demanded, rushing to the sensor station. Sir, there is no explosion, no debris field, no energy signature. The ship was there and now it is not. It is as if it never existed at all. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Lee So-young stood in a control room that hummed with power beyond anything the surface world had ever imagined. Banks of crystalline devices lined the walls, each one connected to a network of energy conduits that stretched across the globe. Technology was a fusion of human engineering and alien science, developed over decades of careful study. Dimensional distortion field generators are operating at full capacity, reported her assistant, Park. Human. We can target individual ships or entire formations. Dr. Lee studied the holographic display showing the Draconian fleet. Each ship appeared as a glowing dot, vulnerable to the forces she had learned to control. Target the next formation of 6 ships. Begin displacement sequence. The technology was based on discoveries made from alien artifacts recovered over the past 70 years. By manipulating the fabric of space-time itself, they could move objects out of normal reality, sending them to dimensions where they would never be found. Displacement field activated, announced another technician. Target ships are beginning to phase out of our dimension. 6 more Draconian vessels vanished without warning, leaving their fellow ships staring at empty space where moments before there had been massive warships. The remaining crews watched in horror as their companions simply stopped existing. Colonel Kim Tae-ho observed the operation from his command center high in the Korean mountains. Through reinforced windows, he could see the alien ships in the sky above, unaware that their fate was being decided by technology they could never have imagined. Sir, the dimensional displacement is proceeding according to plan, reported Major Kong Do-hyun. We have removed 47 enemy vessels in the past hour. Good, Kim Tae-ho replied quietly. They came here expecting to find a helpless world filled with primitive creatures. Instead, they found a civilization that has been preparing for this moment for 7 decades. The truth was that Earth had never been defenseless. Behind the facade of simple technology and basic weapons lay a global network of advanced facilities, hidden cities, and weapon systems that had been developed in absolute secrecy. The primitive appearance of human civilization was the greatest deception ever attempted. Aboard the Draconian flagship, panic was beginning to spread through the crew. Admiral Zithkar watched his tactical display as more ships vanished from his fleet. The red dots representing his vessels were disappearing one by one with no explanation that made sense. "Sir, we have lost contact with the battlecruiser Zekthar," reported Lieutenant Crickstall, "and the destroyer squadron in Sector 7 has also vanished." "How many ships have we lost to this phenomenon?" Zithkar demanded. "Over 400 ships in the past 6 hours, sir. At this rate, our entire fleet will be gone within days." The Admiral's scaled hands clenched into fists. "What kind of weapon can make ships simply disappear?" "Our intelligence reports mentioned nothing about dimensional manipulation technology." "Sir, our intelligence reports were clearly incomplete," Velthor replied grimly. "These humans have capabilities we never suspected. They have been studying us while we underestimated them." Underground facilities around the world, human technicians worked to coordinate the final phase of the operation. The dimensional displacement technology required precise timing and enormous amounts of energy, but it was working perfectly. The Draconian fleet was being systematically removed from existence. "All stations report ready for final sequence," announced Dr. Lee Soyoung. "We will target the remaining ships in groups of 50. Complete displacement of the invasion fleet will be accomplished within 12 hours. As the hours passed, the Draconian armada continued to shrink. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds simply vanished into dimensional space, their crews unaware of what was happening until the very moment they ceased to exist in normal reality. Admiral Zithkar's flagship was among the last 100 vessels remaining. He stood on his bridge, watching as the final formations of his once mighty fleet prepared for displacement. The realization of what was happening had finally penetrated his consciousness. They were never primitive, he whispered to himself. This entire world was a trap. They knew we were coming. They prepared for decades, maybe centuries. We walked into a carefully planned ambush. As the dimensional field began to envelop his flagship, Zithkar felt a strange sense of understanding. Earth had appeared defenseless, because that was exactly what its inhabitants wanted potential invaders to believe. Behind the simple appearance lay a civilization, capable of technologies that even the Draconians had never imagined. The last thing Admiral Zithkar saw was the blue-green world below, peaceful and beautiful, giving no hint of the advanced civilization that had just erased his entire fleet from existence. 6 months later, investigation teams from various galactic civilizations arrived at Earth's coordinates, searching for any trace of the Draconian armada. They found only a quiet world with primitive-looking satellites and simple radio transmissions. The humans they encountered seemed friendly, but claimed no knowledge of any alien visitors. The galaxy was left with a mystery that would never be solved. 10,000 of the most advanced warships ever built had simply vanished, leaving behind only questions and a growing fear of the small blue world that appeared so harmless, but had somehow made an entire invasion fleet disappear without a trace.